Welcome to another episode of Mental Hell, where we dive deep into the intricacies of the mind, the biology of the brain, and how these elements shape our experience and perspectives. Today, we have the honor of hosting Katharine Giovanni, a three-time award-winning best-selling author, speaker, and trailblazer in the independent concierge industry. Katharine has authored over 12 books, including her latest release, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness: Unlocking Your Power, which I had the joy of reading myself. Katharine's journey is nothing short of remarkable. She has faced and overcome immense challenges, from surviving stage 3 breast cancer to navigating a turbulent childhood that included a suicide attempt. These profound experiences have endowed her with a unique insight into resilience and the transformative power of forgiveness. Her personal story, marked by perseverance and self-discovery, offers invaluable lessons that she shares with compassion and with clarity. Join us as Katharine delves into these experiences, providing us with a richer understanding of the human dynamics and the healing potential of forgiveness, a topic that we all need to discuss. This conversation promises to be filled with inspiration and profound insights, making it a must listen for anyone seeking to navigate their own mental hell with greater resilience and hope. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so very grateful, and thank you for sending me a copy of your book. I look forward to diving into it.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to start off with the question I'm sure you hear all of the time. Why should I forgive somebody who hurt me? Aren't they responsible for their actions?
Forgiveness is selfish.
Okay.
When you forgive somebody, you do it for you. You don't do it for them. If I forgive you, first of all, it doesn't mean I want a relationship with you, because I probably don't. It doesn't mean that you were correct, because you weren't. What it means is I want you out of my head. I want to stop thinking about you all the time, and I want to start living my life again. That's the bottom line. That's what it means.
So it's not giving them permission to hurt us again.
No, quite the opposite. It's taking your power back. Let me give you a visual. And for the people listening to the broadcast, I'm holding a mug, opaque mug in front of my face. So pretend this mug is anger. See what I can do? I'm holding it to the side. You and I can have a nice conversation. I can go to work. I can go to the grocery store. I can easily keep my anger off to the side. But once I stop really living my life and I think about the anger and I start putting more anger into it, and that person is, maybe they're a relative and they're constantly bothering me, well, now the anger is right in front of my face. Now my life is pretty much stopped. I can't have a conversation with you. I can't really do anything at work. All my conversations are about this anger. It's all I can think about. It's all I can do. They're living in my head. So what forgiveness is going to do, it's going to allow you to put that little glass of anger down so you can live your life again.
So this podcast is about living in a mental hell, right? So I personally have dealt with depression, anxiety, trauma as a child as well. And so I know what it feels like to literally be living in my head and feel like I'm in hell, even if the outside experiences aren't really that way. It doesn't matter. It's what's going on inside my head, right? So tell me about your childhood, and I would love to hear the journey from your childhood, suicide attempts, all of that stuff, to where we come into life to say, you know what, the way out of my mental hell is forgiveness.
Right. You're very well named. It was mental hell, because it was back in never mind what year it was. I'm a lot older. Let's just say it was the number 19 was in the year. Let's just say
ancient,
and dinosaurs roamed. But I was raised in a very dysfunctional house, both alcoholic parents. I was bullied really badly in school, and I was different from everybody else. So in the 8th grade, my parents got a really messy divorce, and it was just horrific. I was getting bullied, and mentally, I just wanted to finish it all. So I attempted suicide. It probably wouldn't have killed me. I just got 100 aspirin, laid it on my desk, and sat there and stared at them. And a friend of mine who's a vascular surgeon today talked me out of it. But I spent the next 15 to 20 years, your typical angry teenager, and everybody knows the teenager I'm talking about. They're draped in black. They don't want to talk about anything. They're pessimistic. They're angry. Nobody can get through to them. So I managed to get through college. I managed to do all these things, got married at the age of 29. But my mother finally in 1987, something like that, got sober. She just magically got sober because she fell down some stairs and broke her hip. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic at Lenox Hill Hospital with a broken hip. Just not going to happen. So she sobered up. And when she sobered up, we became as close as sisters. We forgave each other. We had long talks. I finally had that relationship I'd always wanted. And then she got breast cancer and died 3 years later. So I had 3 years with her, which I'm very grateful for. And I kind of floated around in a black fog, as we all do, for about a year. And then I just kind of realized I had almost no friends. I was going from my apartment to work, to the grocery store, to my apartment, to work, to the grocery store. And I've been doing that for years. And I finally decided that if I didn't change, I was probably going to die just like my mother. Because I was drinking. I've been sober for 32 years. So I quit drinking and I got my act together and I realized that I probably should lose the anger. But everybody says you have to forgive, but nobody teaches you how. So it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure I should start forgiving people, but my parents didn't want to. So I started with some easy ones and I was just saying the words, I forgive them, that kind of thing. There was no energy behind it. I was just kind of doing it, but it helped. It helped. And I finally started to make my way, met my husband. We've been together for a very long time. So in 2012, I came down with breast cancer, stage 3, sick for 4 years. And I realized that if I didn't change my life, the way I eat, the way I thought, the cancer would probably get to me. So I realized that I really should start changing. And the only way I could really think of changing was through forgiveness. I'm also a customer service trainer. I've been training concierge for a very long time, and I can't teach you to be warm, friendly, and approachable. And I can give you all the words to say. We can work in your tone of voice. We can work on your presence. But if you're angry inside, it's not going to help because your anger is going to bleed through your body language, whether you want to or not. So this forgiveness method is going to allow us to create enough love that it's going to forgive. Let me reword that. It's going to create enough love in your body that your words are going to come out differently. So you're going to start to see the effect. In other words, when you go on Facebook and you see somebody's name, you're not going to want to throw darts at it. You're probably not going to think anything. We all do it. You see that bully in school and they broke your leg and, they think, oh, well, maybe karma. They deserved that. Well, using my method, you're going to be able to look at that person and not feel anything. You won't feel good. You won't feel bad. It'll just be neutral.
So what's different between your method and somebody who does EMDR? And just for those who don't understand what EMDR is, it's something that they use in psychology that allows you to, it uses eye movement. And the eye movement, you go through hard situations in your life, and it allows you to disassociate the emotion with the event. So you can remember the event, but the emotion tied to it is no longer something that's a trigger.
Which is fantastic. And I've actually heard of that. I've heard of that. My method, the secret sauce to my method is energy. Einstein proved that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just changes form. So when you get angry, everybody on the planet thinks when you get angry, it goes from your mouth and your body out into the stratosphere and it just dissipates. That's what we all assume, which is actually not true. That's not what happens. It sticks around in your energy field. So you literally become a walking dark thundercloud. And it's literally sticking around. So by forgiving the energy around your body, that's going to dissipate the cloud and it's going to help people stay forgiven. That's why they don't stay forgiven, because you haven't forgiven the energy around them and you haven't forgiven the energy around yourself. And the energy, that dark energy, everybody says anger is toxic. Nobody tells you how. You just met, well, why is anger toxic? It's not something I can touch or feel or smack. That's why. It's that dark energy around your body gets into your body and it makes you sick. I have science to back me up. You can Google, I can't say his name to save my soul, and I always mispronounce it. He's a Japanese researcher who studied water, the molecules of water.
Yep.
I think his name is Matsumoto or something like that.
Mhm.
And I'm saying it, I'm giving you like the summary of it. He took two things of water. One thing of water, he said bad things too. He yelled at it. He didn't give it any light. He treated it badly. The other container of water, he sent love to it. He said nice things to it. He gave it a lot of sunshine. He treated it really beautifully. Then he put it under a microscope. You can Google this. The pictures are online. They're really cool. The water that he said nasty things to, when you look under a microscope, black, nasty formations. It looks like dirty snowflakes, and they were malformed. The love water showed these beautiful formations, and it was actually very beautiful pictures. Your body is 98% water. So all of that anger, what do you think the water in your body is doing? It's literally making you sick.
So you're speaking my love language. I'm an energy healer, right? Well, I don't like to use the word healer. I think anyways, I would say integrator, or releaser, but it is that exactly. And I think that the world is now finally understanding that everything is energy, right? So
Yes.
we know this scientifically, but we don't apply this to ourselves as human beings, right? And we're all frequency, we're all energy. So when I was speaking about the EMDR, I kind of answered the question for myself as you were talking. EMDR, it changes the way the actual brain, the biology of the brain kind of sees it, but it doesn't release the energy around it, right?
Right.
And so your method, and for those that need additional help, maybe they do need, some sort of therapy or EMDR treatment or whatever the case may be. But regardless of what you do in that, if you don't release the energy around it, you're still carrying that energy with you.
You are.
Yeah.
And you have to physically forgive that energy to transform it from dark to light.
One of the quotes in your book you have by Buffy Andrews, don't ever underestimate the power of forgiveness. I've seen it free people. I've seen it lift burdens that had been weighed them down and kept them from moving on. And so everything that you're saying goes with exactly that, right? It frees you.
It does for you. And, it's going to, once you're not looking at your anger all the time, you're going to start noticing things. The first thing that'll probably happen is people are going to look at you and say, did you get a haircut?
Mhm.
Did you get a new outfit? You lost weight, right? Something about you looks different. Well, yeah, because you've just lost a lot of the anger. That's going to be the first thing that happens. It transforms you. And then you're going to notice opportunities. You might get a job offer. Why? Because you're paying attention. You're paying attention to the opportunities. You're not paying attention to the anger and the stories anymore. Your story. I held my story for years like a coat of armor. I was proud of it. But without my story, who was I going to be? It was
Right.
very scary. I built a whole personality around this person. So you have to be willing to lose the story. You might even lose some weight. There's a reason to buy the book. Why are you going to lose? Why are you going to lose weight? Because you're paying attention. You're starting to feel better. So you're probably paying attention to what you're eating, which is going to affect how your health is. You're going to start to change. But in my world, I don't want you to start with the unforgivables on a 10 scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the most horrific. I want you to start with the number ones. Take baby steps. Do that dumpster fire at the end.
Yeah. So I want to go back to a couple different things that you said. One, if your book is, I'm sure under $20 or whatever, it's cheaper than Ozempic. So if you lose weight, there you go, people. We just solved all your problems for under $20.
There you go.
But I want to go back to I think that people don't seem to understand that our traumas in life, there are a lot of people who are extremely successful. And they are successful because they were able to, they use the adaptation of their trauma, right? To kind of push things aside and just keep moving forward and just hustle through it. And they then became very successful. So people look at them and they think they're successful because they make a bunch of money. I was one of these people when I worked in the corporate world who was an overachiever and all of these different things. But inside, I was dying. I
Right.
was exhausted. And you were talking about the physical part of it. And I think that what we don't understand is that when we're carrying all of this, let's call it the energy that you were talking about, how it affects us physically too. And so all of a sudden we have cancer, we
Right.
have an autoimmune disease, we have migraine headaches. And these things aren't symptoms that are coming from the body, they're warning signals from the body that something's wrong. And
Exactly.
forgiveness, like you kind of talk about the not, and we'll go into this, not just necessarily forgiving the person, because sometimes it's hard to forgive the person. If you were raped, it's very hard to forgive your rapist. But you talk about forgiving other things. Can you go into that?
If you were raped, to use that horrific example, forgiving the rapist may not even be appropriate. There's maybe 5% of the people on the planet, they're these magical human beings that can forgive these kinds of things. And I'm not even sure I could do it. And I wrote the book. But if you consider that a dumpster fire, there's other things in that dumpster around that event that you can forgive. You can forgive the bed, the building, the park, the light, the people that were around. You can forgive those other things. You can forgive the nightstand. If you're in a park, you can forgive the park. You can forgive the street. You can forgive yourself for walking down the street. See, I'm forgiving the things around this event. I'm just not forgiving the person. And forgiving the things around the event is probably going to lighten up your energy just enough that you can actually move on with your life and put that person in the appropriate box inside your head. Forgiveness is like an onion. There are many, many layers to it. And you forgive that first layer, and there's more underneath. You're going to remember other things. So you just keep at it. You know, forgiveness is a marathon. It's really not a sprint.
Well, and that's the thing about life, right? Really, all of the work that we do is a marathon, not a
Right.
sprint. And we always want instant gratification. And so we forget that it is peeling back the layers. One thing that you said that I find very hard, we know that about 8 out of 10 women are sexually assaulted in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we also know that we blame ourselves oftentimes for these
Right.
assaults. So whether they're in an inappropriate group at work or they're a true actual rape, whatever the case may be, we often take that blame. If I didn't wear that short skirt, if I didn't walk down that alleyway, if I didn't drink too much, if I didn't trust that guy when my gut was telling me not to, all of these different things. So forgiving yourself is so huge.
And I was assaulted in college as well. I was raped in college, and to forgive that rapist, it was very hard. But I think that my biggest advice is, first of all, it wasn't your fault.
Mhm.
I don't care what everybody says. It wasn't what you were wearing. It wasn't where you were walking. It wasn't your fault. You should be able to walk where you want and wear what you want.
Yep.
And the sad thing about this particular topic is I don't know one woman who hasn't been verbally or physically assaulted.
I agree,
I
100%.
have yet to meet one.
Yep. And it,
Everybody has a story. Everybody.
everybody, and those that say they don't just don't recognize that they have been. Oftentimes
Or
they make
they don't
excuses.
remember.
Yeah, they don't remember, or oftentimes they make excuses like, oh, that's just what guys do. Right. And so they don't take it that way and they don't seem to understand. So what you were just saying also brings up to mind like a trigger of a memory for me. When I was in the corporate world, I was at an event and I happened to have like this big suite because I was the top producer. And so I invited everybody up to my suite and we were all drinking and I got tired and went to bed. In my suite, the master had two entries into it. The first one was through like a double door. The second one was through the restroom. So I
Right.
went into my room, closed the door, started to get undressed, and one of the guys that was there, because I told people they can stay, I just was going to sleep. One of the guys went through the restroom side of it and tried to rape me. And we had, this whole thing with the police and all of this stuff being called. Luckily, I was able to fend him off because I was in that capacity and I'm kind of mean in that way. Like I was not going to allow that to happen again. But the story is that they had me talk to somebody afterwards, like a trauma psychologist. And I was saying, well, if I wouldn't have invited these people up to my room and allowed them to party in my room, this wouldn't have happened. And she was
Yeah.
like, honey, it doesn't matter if you were walking down an alleyway completely butt naked, drunk. Nobody has the right to assault your body. But we don't remember these things and then we
No.
carry them forward. And I came back so ashamed because I was drinking and I let people come into my room. And I had to get to a space where I had to understand that I had to forgive myself
Right.
because even though that's not my fault that he decided to do that, I had in my mind made myself, I persecuted myself.
And hearing things, oh, he was just sowing his wild oats.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, it's okay for men to do that. Really? We're going to, maybe it's because of what you were dressed, or maybe you had the event in your room. Well, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, exactly.
It's all nonsense. It's all complete nonsense. And a lot of women don't report these things because who's going to believe them? In my case, he was a football player.
Mhm.
Who's going to believe me? He was
Right.
a star football player of a
Mhm.
college.
And the thing is,
So
like you said, that people don't believe them. That's the problem. People
no,
don't
they
believe
don't.
them. And then you start doubting yourself. And this goes
Mhm.
back into the forgiveness, right? We have to go through this process.
Forgiving yourself is probably a number 10 for people. And this
Mm.
is the first book of 3. So the next book that I'm working on is going to be a lot about forgiving your 10s, especially if your 10 is you. But in your particular case, there's other things. You're not going to forgive the rapist because that's hard. You can forgive the bed. You can forgive the suite. You can forgive the other people in the room who didn't come to your aid. You can forgive the people who were saying, "Oh, well, because you were here, there." You can forgive the excuses. You can
Mhm.
actually forgive the word, I forgive their excuses and the energy around their excuses. That's what I'm saying. You can forgive people, places, and things. You can forgive thoughts. You can forgive memories. You can
Mhm.
forgive the memories around it. So there's always something else that you can forgive, and you can pick it out, and then you forgive the energy around those things.
And you start small. So tell me, you keep mentioning these numbers. Now I know the answer because I read your book. But give us what do all these numbers mean? That's a 10. This is a 1. Tell us what that is.
In the book, I have a step-by-step process on how you can forgive people. And the first step is to write a list of people, places, and things, or memories, whatever you want. Whatever comes into your mind, write it down. I don't want you to think about it. I don't want you to really torture yourself. I want you to just write a list. Start with 10 and just write names down blind, no judgment. And then I want you to take that list and I want you to rate them from 1 to 10, 10 being unforgivable, 1 being super easy. And then I want you to start with the number 1s, the really, really easy ones. The person at work who stole your lunch yesterday, you can forgive that person. The person who cut you off in aisle 4 of the grocery store yesterday, you can forgive that person too. Start with the easy ones, and then eventually you can work to your number 10s. So here's a question I always get asked: when am I done?
Never.
Human beings irritate other human beings, and sadly we are never done, because
Mhm.
once you peel back that first onion layer, so to speak, you're going to remember a lot of things, and
Yeah.
other memories are going to come up, but you take it baby steps at a time. Now, a couple of little PSAs here. I am It's probably not a shocker, but I am an overachiever.
Mm. I
And
didn't guess that.
when I came up with this method, I sat down. I must have forgiven 50. I wrote a mammoth list, and I sat right before I went to bed, and you should do it before you go to bed. And I just forgave everything. And I spent the next 3 days in bed, sick as a dog. People thought I had the stomach flu, because once you forgive that energy, the energy has to leave your body. And our bodies heal itself when we're sleeping, which is why I want you to do this before you go to sleep. Most people get tired once they forgive a bunch of people. Some people, shall I delicately say, have some stomach issues, delicately put. You might get hungry, you might get sleepy, you might want to exercise. It's just your body's way of releasing that energy. So please don't do more than 10 at a time, because I don't want you to make yourself sick like I did.
And yeah, and for me, like working with energy, I tell people the same thing when we're working on their energy, right? Like oftentimes don't plan a busy day, the day that we're working on your energy and all these
Exactly.
different things. And people don't realize that they're storing that energy physically in their body. They don't
Mhm.
realize that they're clenched up because they're always used to being clenched up. They don't realize that their neck is like, they're like, oh, my neck hurts, but they don't know what it feels like for their neck not to hurt because that energy's in there, stuck in there because they've been holding on to all of this stuff. So the
Yeah.
fact that the body could create, irritable bowels or whatever the case may be, makes sense because we're holding on to it all. And as you forgive, you're letting go. Yeah.
Now, will this magically heal whatever is ailing you right now? Maybe, maybe not. I would not advise stop taking medicines that doctors have told you to take. I'm a big believer in chemotherapy and radiation. I'm alive because I combined Eastern and Western medicine and I forgave everybody.
Yep.
I maybe your knee might stop to hurt, your neck might feel better, your back, maybe you won't get as many stomach aches. These are all within the realm of possibility, but it's mentally you will feel 100% better
Yeah.
because carrying that stuff around is breaking your back.
And I'm the same way. I use both Eastern and Western medicine, right?
Mhm.
As somebody who dealt with depression, I had to take an antidepressant to get to a space where I wanted to
Sure.
start working on myself, right?
Right.
People don't understand when you're in that mental hell, that black hell. People, I love it. I love it in a sarcastic way. I hate it when people tell people who are depressed, well, just get up and work out. You'll be fine. It's like you don't understand the chemicals in their brain are not working to get them to get up and work out. But so the help of, that can get you to a space where you can work on yourself. It's not something to be on for the rest of your life, probably, right? We'd
No.
like to be able to heal so that we don't have to be on these things. But if you broke your leg, you wouldn't say to somebody who broke their leg, well, just walk on it. It'll be fine.
Just walk it off. You'll
Yeah,
be
walk it
fine.
off. You'll be fine. No, you don't do that with the brain either. And so forgiveness is in your mind, in your body. And we
Right.
need help, like tools like you're offering. I believe breath work, meditation,
Right.
physical movement, whether it's through cardio or yoga or whatever the case may be, but you have to do the work.
And just because somebody else in your family has a positive memory around the person you need to forgive means absolutely nothing to me. I really don't care.
Mm,
I care about you. And the fact that you have a bad memory against this person is really all I care about. What your cousin feels is completely immaterial to me.
right.
You're
Well,
the one carrying this around. You're the one who's allowing this person to live in your head. And the reason you're going to feel better is because you're going to finally be able to think about other things and you're finally going to be able to be the person you came down here to the planet to be.
and I'm glad you mentioned that because there's so many times that like we will have something against a memory or something that's we're carrying around with us. And then somebody's like, what are you talking about? Grandpa was the best person ever.
Yeah.
And then it invalidates you. And you think, well, what's wrong with me that I don't think grandpa's the best person ever? Right. And
Yeah.
so I love that you said that because it's like, it doesn't matter. This is your journey. That's their journey. That's their experience. That's their perception. But this is my journey. And maybe to me, he wasn't the best person ever.
He might not have. He might have sexually assaulted you and nobody else.
Yeah.
But, I'm a big fan of all the step and recovery programs out there.
Mhm.
I am a big fan. I've been
Yeah.
sober a long time.
Me too.
However, in my world, you don't have to reach out and talk to these people.
Which I love because I
You
have
don't.
done the AA program myself.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest ones is the step where you have to reach out. And then it feels like sometimes even being invalidated or yelled at by those people all over again, right? So I mean, it's important to go out and reach out and say you're sorry and all of these different things, but that's very hard. Very, very
It's,
hard.
it's very hard and you don't have to.
And you don't have to. I agree.
Great respect to the recovery programs, but
I
in
agree.
my world, you don't have to because that's the last person I want to talk to because they might be a narcissist and they're going to twist my words again. And then all of a sudden I'm going to be back in that
Right.
pit
Yep.
where I'm thinking everything is my fault. So I've gone backwards instead of forwards.
Right.
In my world, you sit in the middle of your bed or under a tree or wherever you want, turn off all your technology, and you visually just imagine the person standing in front of you. And then you can let them have it. You can talk to them. You can do whatever you want. and then you just say the little mantra that I have in the book, and you just watch them walk away. If you can't do that, if you can't imagine this person, what you can do is get 2 chairs and put them in your room and face them back to back. You sit in one chair and the other chair is behind you, and you just pretend that the person is sitting behind you in the chair, and you say everything you want to say, get everything out, and then from the bottom of your heart, put your hand in your chest on your heart and say you forgive them.
Yeah.
And if you're still mad after that happens, that's fine. Wait 24 hours and try it again. And maybe this time forgive things around that person. Forgive, whatever other pieces of the memory are there, the hammock or the wherever you were. And that will probably help. So you can always pick out things you can forgive around the person.
I think that's such a big key. And I keep saying this, and this is, again, so father was an alcoholic. It seems like there's so many alcoholics in the world,
All
but
very
it
pickled
really
people.
messes with children, right? That's
Oh,
why
yeah.
I don't drink, because I know I did drink and then saw that I was drinking too much and knew that this would mess with my children. So I stopped, right? But it goes back to all of the things that between him and my mom, if I tried to forgive them as people, for me, it's very difficult. But if I can forgive different things in the scenario, it makes it easier. And then maybe eventually with your method, I can come to a place where I can actually forgive them as humans, knowing that hurt people, right? And these are the things that we learn as we heal. But just you have to take baby steps. You can't take the whole thing at one time.
No, you can't. One of my number 10s, it took me over a year. They were horrific. I forgave things around them, but they, and especially if they're family members, well, then you really have a problem.
Yep.
What if you live with this person?
Exactly.
You're going to see them every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, little side entertainment for you. If you're living with this person and you need to forgive them, you might have to do it every day. You might have to do it every hour. You might have to do it every minute. But if they're a number 10, may I say, with all the love in my heart, you might want to see if you can live someplace else.
Yeah.
That's my first thing. Secondly, if you can't, well, you're going to start to get better. You're going to start to feel better. You're going to start to look better. They're going to notice. So they'll probably get angry.
Right.
And that's very entertaining for me, because the better I get, the angrier they get. It's like in customer service. The crazier and angrier the customer gets. I'm Susie Sunshine from Sunnybrook Farms, and I know it's irritating you. So yes, very entertaining.
And I love that you say that, because it's so true, right? Like the way that you
Oh, yeah.
respond to somebody getting angry at you is not to get angry at them, but it is to be the opposite of what they want in the reaction. But
Right.
but people don't like it when you change, even for the better.
No,
They
they
don't
want you to
like
stay in
change.
that box that they've
Exactly.
put you in. They don't want you to change. They're used to you. And if you start to change, wow, Nellie barred the door. Well, now you're turning into a different person. I didn't marry this person. Who are
Exactly.
you? And they get scared.
They get scared.
So you can try and change them. In my experience, it doesn't work very well. A client of mine left my book on the coffee table, and I said, "Did it work?" She said, "No, it's still on the coffee table, but I'm hopeful."
Yeah. Well, hope, you got to have that, right?
Right?
Yeah. Very, very interesting. So in your book, I love all the quotes. So I'll just read one as I find them. But forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. And that's what we're
Yes.
all searching for, is peace.
I ask a lot of people a question: what brings you joy?
Mm.
And I can't tell you how many people cannot answer the question.
Mm.
They will say, well, a good night's sleep, or getting off work at 4 o'clock, or, that kind of thing. But at the end of your life, when you're in that last half hour of life, nurses have said the one thing everybody thinks about at the end of their life is relationships. You're not going to think about that, that Prius that you just bought, or the Maserati, or all the money that you have in your bank, or the 15 houses. You're going to think of the relationships, and you're going to think of the ones that broke, and you're going to think of the ones you have. So while you still have, I had dinner with the Grim Reaper, and if you don't go home with the guy, it changes you a little bit. And so I really try and do forgiveness every night, because I want to keep the relationships that I do have. I want to keep them in my life, because at the end of the day, that's what I value the most.
And it's never too late.
It is never too late. I can prove it. I saw last week, I read an article and I actually dived. I'm pretty sure this is 100% true. 105-year-old woman just got her master's degree. 105. So no, it is never too late, ever. In fact, I really, really aspire to don't die until you're dead.
Don't die too. Well, that would be a good idea. But you know, I think that if you really dig down into that, a lot of us are already dead
A
in
lot of
our
us are
daily
walking
lives.
around dead.
Yeah, we're walking around not aware, not present,
Oh,
living
I
in
can
the
handle
past.
my anger. I can handle it at work. No, I'm not angry at all. I can get through everything. And I've got all this money and I've got all these things. But at night, when you're alone in your hotel room, what are you thinking about?
Right. Yeah,
The
definitely.
relationships that are either not in your life. You're looking at yourself saying, I need to get a life. I hear that all the time. I need to get a life. Well, you do have a life. You got kids, you're going from soccer to work, and well, I'm too busy. I need to get a life. Well, what does that mean? I need to get a life.
Yeah.
And I think what they're saying is I need to improve on the relationships that I have and lose the anger so I can actually experience joy. That's what they mean when they say I need to get a life. What they're really saying, I really want to experience joy.
Yeah. And let's be very clear, and you know this because you're in my world. There's a difference between being happy and experiencing joy.
Correct.
Happy is a fleeting feeling. Joy is a way of living.
And it's something that you feel really deep down inside your solar plexus. I mean, it's this momentary feeling of absolute pure joy.
Yeah.
Some people experience this pure joy, adrenaline rush when they jump out of a perfectly decent airplane. I have two lists. I have a bucket list and I have a list that rhymes with bucket. And that is on my rhymes with bucket list.
Oh, I've done that one. It's fun.
No, but it's something, it's not like eating a hot fudge sundae. That's a momentary thing of happiness. It's something that brings you absolutely pure joy.
Right. And your external circumstances cannot take it away.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the difference, because if you're just happy, if something goes wrong, happiness goes away. If you live in joy, it can't be changed by the external. You cannot live in joy until you change what's going on inside your head.
Correct.
Yeah.
A story about when I was going through cancer in 2012, they sent you to chemo class. This is a true story. And they sit you in a room and they proceeded to tell me everything that was going to go wrong, all the side effects, all the drugs, all these nasty things. And they didn't tell me anything positive. And of course, I wrote a book about it because, of course, I did. But they didn't
You're an
tell me anything.
overachiever.
Yeah. I wrote that one on my cell phone in a chemo chair because I was bored. But my brain snapped. So after the class, I went up to Nurse Ratched at the front and I looked at her dead in the eye and I said, I'm not going to get all of that. And she looked at me, and we're in the South. She said, oh, honey, you're going to get most of them. You've got stage 3. And I said, no, I won't. Well, fast forward a year and I had 13 operations and chemo and blah, blah, blah. I was really sick, but I didn't get the infections that everybody else did. And I didn't get as sick as everybody else did. And I didn't die. So she came to me and she said, what are you doing? And I looked at her and I said, excuse me? She said, what are you eating? You're doing something that nobody else is doing. I just smiled at her and I said, do you remember when I told you last year that I wasn't going to get as sick as everybody else? She said, yeah. I said, that's what I did. It's called positivity. And positivity is something that you have to do second by second. And I always thought cancer was a terrorist and you don't let the terrorists win. And I forgave the cancer. I forgave the chemo. I forgave the energy around these things. I forgave the surgeons. I forgave the chemo chair. I forgave the radiation table. I forgave all of it. And that's what got me through.
And forgiving what gave you the cancer.
I did.
Yeah.
Because we'll never know what gave me the cancer.
Right.
And it's probably genetic. I don't carry that gene, strangely, but it's probably genetic, I would imagine. But I forgave that unknown source of how I got it as well. I forgave everything.
Yeah.
I even forgave the people who left my life because they couldn't handle what I was going through and never came back. Forgave them too.
So I want to go back to it being a daily practice.
It is.
Just like everything else that is a tool in our tool belt, right? We can't just do this hyper, like, say, okay, I'm going to spend 5 days forgiving everybody. I'm going to do 10 things a day, 5 days, 50 days, knock it out. I'm done. The old me would have done that.
I admire that. There are people out there that would absolutely do that. And I'm going to kick this out and I'm going to be good and I'm going to be done. Sadly, if you do 10 a day for the next 4 days, you're going to peel off layers of the onion and you're going to reach another level. In other words, you're going to level up like a gamer. And there's a whole bunch of new things on that level that you have to get rid of. And then you level up again and you're going to kill a bunch of stuff on that level. So it's like playing a video game. You're going to keep leveling up and you're going to keep peeling back the layers. And I always tell people what I really want you to do is I want you to think about the 3 things you're most grateful for. I do it every night. It could be, I had a hot cup of coffee today. That's fine. Could have been a horrible day. But I want you to think of the 3 things you're most grateful for, even if it's the same 3 things every day. Don't care. And then I want you to do your forgiveness list. And I want you to do the 1s, 2s, and 3s until, do those for a few days until they're gone. Then do the 4, 5s, and 6s. That's going to be harder. You're not going to be able to forgive those people right away because they're still zinging your brain. The easy ones you can toss. How do you know you've forgiven somebody? When you go on Facebook or you look at their name and it doesn't cause an emotional reaction in you, then you know you've forgiven them. You're not happy, you're not sad, you really just don't care. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for neutrality. So you keep going until you get to those 10s. And then if you can't forgive the 10s, as we've said before, pick out some things you can forgive. But this is a process that you do, at least if you don't want to do it every night, at least do it, every Sunday, for example. Pick 1 or 2 nights a week that you can do this.
And when does it go from being work, so effort, into a place of I'm actually grateful this is in my routine? When does it shift?
When you hit the 5s, that's when it shifts.
Yeah.
You've done the 1s, 2s, 3s, you've done some 4s, you've managed to forgive people, you're going to start to feel better. That's why we're starting with the easy ones. You're going to start to feel lighter. Clients have told me that they legitimately feel lighter. Their shoulders feel lighter. They feel better. Coffee tastes better. The world just looks a little bit brighter. They can walk into a grocery store and they're not complaining all the time. So by the time you get into the 5s, the 6, the 7s, the train's kind of left the station at this point, and you're kind of picking up speed. Will the memories of these people set you back a little bit? They might. Depends how dark they are. But that's why we're forgiving these people. That's why we're forgiving aspects of it that you can forgive. And if you're the only person you can forgive in that relationship, well, then do that. Everything's correct. Forgive the aspects that you can, and you're going to start to feel better and better. When do you get to the 8s, 9s, and 10s? Those are rough. You'll get there when you think you're ready for it. You'll look at those people on your list who don't have check marks on, you haven't crossed them off, and you'll think, I think I can make a pass at them. Or you're going to look at them, remember the memory, and say, oh, hell no.
I would imagine that sometimes we might label something or someone as a 3, but if we keep avoiding it, it's probably not a 3.
It's probably a 5 or a 6.
Yeah. And so if every time we go to that person, we're like, nah, I don't want to work on that today, we need to reevaluate and give them a different number.
It could be your ex-business partner. That happened to me once, and it took me a very long time to forgive this person, but I did eventually. Were they a 10? No, they were probably, I thought they were like a 4.
Mm-hmm.
Were they a 4? Probably not. Probably lying to myself.
Right.
They were probably like a 7 or an 8.
Right.
But the trick is to get those high numbers down to like a 3 or 4. And then with the use of mental gymnastics, you can forgive that person.
What if
now,
you're
I'm not a religious person, but there is one passage in the Bible that got me to forgive my parents. Only one. Jesus is on the cross and he says, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. Mm-hmm. What he means is if you are talking to somebody who's 5 years old and they don't know trigonometry, you can't get mad at them for that because they haven't learned it yet.
Right.
So my parents did the best they could with the tools they had at the time. Was it good enough? No, it wasn't, but they did the best they could with the tools they have. And through some mental gymnastics, I was finally able to forgive them.
And that's the thing, right? So like that, and this is where I created forgiveness in my life as well for my parents, because it goes back to hurt people hurt people.
Right.
If they knew better, they would do better. That is true. If we know better, we do better for the most part, right? And so obviously they didn't have the tools or didn't know better or didn't have the capacity to change. And
Right.
so at some point there, find something that you can forgive, right?
There's always one little thing you can forgive.
Yeah, there's always a little piece. If I'm going down my list and I notice I continue to avoid the same thing, do I trust that I want to avoid it, or do I have to say to myself, you're avoiding it, you need to work on this somehow?
At some point, you're going to want to stop avoiding it. As
Mm.
you forgive more people, it's going to free up the dopamine and the serotonin in your brain, and you're going to start to pay attention more, because that's what happens. You start to pay attention, and eventually you're going to pay attention to that person. It's going to catch your eye, and you're going to think, I really have to focus on this, and you're not going to want to. So you pick out a little piece. Maybe it's your mother and she made you wear a dress that you didn't want to wear. Oh yeah, that's mine. Never mind. She made me wear a dress that I really didn't want to wear when I was a kid. I could pick that out and I could forgive that because it was easy. It was super easy. I could forgive that memory. So maybe you're not forgiving the person, you're forgiving various easy memories around these things. You're picking out little pieces of the memory that you could easily toss and say, okay, well, I feel better because I forgave one thing. It was a dress, but I forgave that one thing. Well, that's gonna be the gas that fuels your engine. Eventually, you'll be able to move forward.
What's next
Start
for
with the little
Kath?
things.
What's next for Katharine Giovanni?
Whatever the world tosses at me, I suppose. This is the first book of 3, so I'm working on book 2, which is going to focus on the unforgivable. And if you are your own number 10, how do you forgive yourself? So that will be probably the main focus of book number 2. And if money is your problem, how do you forgive money? There we go.
That's a big one.
Should you forgive money? Money's an there we go.
Inanimate.
Thank you. What she said.
Yeah.
But it's also a form of energy,
Yep.
and energy can be forgiven.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that'll be in there too.
that will be very interesting. When do you think that will come out? No pressure.
I'm hoping by the beginning of next year.
Love that.
I can get it out before the end of the year. I promise I will.
Okay. We love it. And where can people find you?
They can go to my website, and Katharine is spelled very strangely, thanks to my mother, Katharine Giovanni.com. You can also go to Amazon to get the book. And for those of you that are listening that don't like to read, I do have the audiobook available that I produced with my youngest son.
Love that very much. What is your favorite quote? I'm gonna put you on the spot. No notice.
Favorite quote. My favorite quote is from Jim Rohn. Changed my life. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So who are you spending time with? Are you spending time with energy vampires that are sucking the life out of you to the point where you can hear sucking signs when you're with these people? Or are you spending time with people who are brighter, smarter, and greater than you? And if you're with the first group and you can't get away because maybe it's your family or something, or it's where you work, try and spend time with people who don't do that. Go online, look at video podcasts like this one. Hello. Spend time with people that actually fill you up as opposed to take all your energy from you. But look at the 5 people you spend the most time with and work from there. You might have to toss a couple.
Yeah, we are who we hang around, right?
Exactly.
We're the energy that we keep. Love it. I really thank you for being on the show. All of the beautiful information. I will make sure that I have your website, the name of the book, and everything in the comments so that people can go and find you and they can continue to learn from you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.